Hi, I'm Brent Johnson, and today I'm in the Community of Christ Auditorium in Independence, Missouri. With me is Jan Kraybill. She's the chief organist here at the Dome, as we call it. Jan, tell me about this building here, this incredible space.
Yes.
Why is it here? Why is it here in Independence?
So it is an incredible space, and it's got an incredible story behind it. So it was begun in 1926, I believe, and it wasn't finished until the organ went in 1959.
Oh, wow.
And the reason for that is Community of Christ felt very strongly that even in the financial times of the Depression, and they felt that they should always pay their bills and that they shouldn't live outside their means. And so they just kept working on this.
Built it as they could pay for it.
Exactly. So I have photographs of this space when the seats weren't here. They actually used old park benches, and it was brick walls. You know, the walls weren't finished. It was the brick that is the foundation of the walls. And of course, there was no organ here. They did a performance of Messiah, I believe, with 2 pianos. And then I believe there was a Hammond here. But eventually, this organ was conceived of and created, and I'm so grateful for it all.
It's an amazing, beautiful instrument. Well, this is not a church as such, but it is a building for a church. Can you explain the purpose of this huge room? Why do they need such a big space?
Right. So we are at the world headquarters of the denomination called Community of Christ. And this international headquarters has one function that's really important, and that is the legislative business of the church. So every 3 years there is an event called World Conference. It happens to be coming up this April, and there will be delegates from all of the countries that this church has a presence in. I'm not sure how many countries that is right now. It was 57 for a long time. I think it's more than that, but I don't know how many more.
Wow.
So all of these delegates come, and they've all got translation units on themselves with headphones, and so anything that's said anywhere can be translated into whatever language needs to be. And then the singing, when this place is full, there are 5,800 seats, when it's full of people, and I'm here, and everyone's singing together, it's just amazing. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It is.
Well, in order to fill a space like this, we've got to have an organ like this one. This is Aeolian-Skinner from 1959, you
That's
said.
right.
So, and we think it's about 113 ranks total, so
That's
it's
right.
a large instrument for this room. You're coming off of, well, we're here just outside of Kansas City, and of course the Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl yesterday,
Woohoo, go
so
Chiefs.
everyone here is very excited. You played a part in that, of course, with your annual Super Bowl recital yesterday.
That's right.
How many people were here for that?
About 550.
500 for an organ recital on the
Yes.
day of a major sporting event.
Yes.
That's fantastic that we
Yeah.
can get that many people out.
Exactly, and I'm convinced because the last time I played the recital live was in 2020, and then I had 2 years off when it wasn't live. I did it still online, but it wasn't live. Well, in 2020, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl,
So this must
and
be the
they've
charm.
won this time, so I'm convinced I'm part of their good luck charm.
And you've been doing that on Super Bowl Sunday for like
24 years.
24 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, a great tradition here in Independence. Well, let's talk about the organ. It's just beautiful and imposing in this room with these big 32-foot facade pipes here. And most of the organ is hidden away in chambers, but we still have this great division out here. Let's start there.
Sure.
And we just want to hear. Now, we've got a very good 1950s American classic sound here.
That's right.
G. Donald Harrison was no longer, he died before this was built. But
Unfortunately.
still, a lot of his thinking and sound goes into this
That's
instrument.
right. So Whiteford completed this instrument, but it was G. Donald Harrison's design mostly. So, yeah.
Well, let's just start with the great principal chorus and hear how that builds up.
Yeah. So we're based on, of course, the Principal 8. Add the 4 to that. And the 2. And then a mixture. And I can go down to 16.
lot of gravity there. In that
It is.
What is the 16-foot stop called?
It's just the sub-principal.
Sub-principal, okay.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a big full chorus. It's very clear,
Yes.
but it doesn't scream out or anything at us. It's
That's
just,
right.
it fills the room.
Yeah.
All right.
And then if that's too much, you've got Spitz principals and a Gemshorn.
Really?
So if you want to take all of that off and start with the Spitz and add its 4. And if you want to, you could add the 2. So it works.
Yeah, much more subdued sound.
Exactly, but the
and
2
still
works
clear.
at the top of that too,
Yeah.
and the sub actually works at the bottom of it. So you've got those two
It's
options.
almost like a first and
for-
second open chorus
Exactly,
there.
yeah.
All right. All right, tell me about some of the other stops there.
Okay, so I've got a quint and another mixture, a sesquialtra. I've got a scharf. So all of those can give me more or less sparkle
Okay.
at the top of the grate.
Well, let's build up the great chorus again and keep going up to those mixtures.
Okay, so if I start with that original great chorus, the principal, and go up to the mixture and add the scharf. Here's with just the mixture. Here's with just the scharf. Both. If I do the sesquialtra and use it as and then the quint. And of course I can use those within the chorus as
We
well.
to color it with
Yeah.
those tierce sounds.
Yes,
Very nice.
and then I do have a trumpet on the grate, rather unusual. So to have a trumpet on the grate in a Harrison-designed Aeolian-Skinner
Yeah.
is rather unusual. So,
But it's
that's
not a
nice.
big overpowering great
No,
trumpet.
because I have
It's-
so many other trumpets.
Okay, good.
Yes.
And then we have a couple of flutes. 2 or 3
Oh yes,
flutes
I
there in
forgot the
grate.
flutes.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a bourdon. And a 4-foot. And then, in honor of John Obetz, a flute harmonique was added. So that was not a part of the original Harrison design. Lovely.
Yeah, very useful sound. And we should probably say who John Obetz was.
Oh, yes.
For those that don't know, he was the organist here, had your position for many years.
Yes, for 31 years, I believe, from 1961 through 98. So that's 37
Wow,
years.
37
right?
years. And did lots of broadcasting and radio shows. And
He
was
did.
very well known in the area.
Yes,
And that's everything in the grate then.
that's everything in the
Okay.
grate, yes.
Then we also, I see a trumpet on Chamade, but that's back there in the antiphonal, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So what's next here up in the front of the room?
Okay, so still exposed in the room is the Positiv division. It's unique in that it's a floating Positiv division, so it can go on any of the manuals, and it doesn't have a home manual. So I'll put it right now on the choir, and so I can build up a principal chorus there too. Here's its principal. That's the 8, and then the 4, and the 2, and its mixture. So I hope by now you can tell that it's a much brighter division.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
very good for playing Baroque music. The fact that I can put it on any manual, so I can add it to make the grate brighter, or I can use it as a secondary division against the grate, and there are all sorts of ways that I can do
And
that.
like a Positiv should be, it's very bright and present in the room.
It is, yeah. It's right there in front of the case, and
Okay.
so yeah, it's very present in the room. And then it's got a lot of mutations, and so I love playing around with those. Let's first look at the flutes, though. It's got this very chiffy 8-foot flute, and it's 4. So much different.
Yeah.
Much different than the grate. So I really appreciate having those. And then I can add mutations anywhere. So here's the 2 2/3. Add the terce to that. or take the 2 2/3 of. Just so many
mix and match
colors
with
that I can get out of there. And then there's also a crumb horn on that division, one of 2 crumb horns in this instrument. I've got one on the choir that's under expression, and then one here. This one is brighter.
More of a Baroque sound.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
all right.
So yeah, that division, it's very, very useful for Baroque literature. And then also exposed to the room here is the Bombarde division. So a huge trumpet here, but not the hugest in the instrument.
Okay.
We'll wait and hear that later. So it's got a 16 and a 4, so I'll add both to those. So very noble.
Yeah,
in
a
the
lot of power,
room.
but it's not real bright and angry. It's a
That's
nice
right.
warm.
Yeah, I like to
full sound.
use the word noble for that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
okay.
really enjoy that. And then it's got a huge mixture of its own. So
That adds a lot of the fire there to those
it
beats.
does. It does. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's lovely to have all of those resources, and all of those are right here in front of us.
And
that
does that live on its own manual, or
It does, yeah,
So,
so
it's up
it's
there
up
on the
here.
top. Okay.
Yep.
Well, let's go inside now. We have the choir and swell division up there.
So
let's say start with the choir over there on that side.
yeah, so choir is lowest in the room,
Okay.
and so if we do its principal chorus, here's 8. And it's 4. And it's 2. And then it's 16. And all under expressions. So if the box is closed, so very, very nice.
Yeah, and very gentle and under
Yeah.
control there. So
I forgot the mixture. Yeah,
very appropriate sounding there. For,
exactly, for the choir. Yeah.
it gives you between great Positiv and choir, you have so many little chorus options there.
Exactly.
They're still bright, but lots of different volume levels.
Yeah,
All right?
exactly. And so then I've got flutes here too, so. And it's 4. I've also got a string celeste here. And a softer celeste. So it can disappear to almost nothing.
And that's a Dulcan and Dulcan Celeste.
And then I've got a reed chorus. So it's 16, 8, and 4, and here are all of them. Again, under expression, so that's the loudest they can get. So,
Yeah, that's quite a lot of range there.
Uh-huh,
And
exactly.
what are the names of those 3?
so I have a crumb horn at 8, a fagot at 16, and a trumpet at 4.
That's interesting colors. I want to hear the crumb horn by itself, since we heard the other.
So more like a clarinet than the crumb horn that I showed you on the Positiv.
And it is spelled with the French crumhorn, and the other one is
It
the German
is.
crumhorn. So
Yes.
it implies a little bit of difference, at least.
So every day, every time I submit a stop list for this organ to be published anywhere, I always get back from the proofreader, you've spelled trumpet too many different ways, and you've spelled crumhorn. What is this crumhorn? And it's spelled wrong at one of those. And I always have to say, no, this is how organs are.
Indeed. Well, when they get to be this big. So
When they get to be this big, that's right.
well, I want to hear the other two, too, just because they were interesting. We have a 16-foot fagot.
And then the trumpet. So that's more trumpet sounding than the other two. It works well at the top of the other two, but it also works well if I do this. So that's using the...
Yeah, I was just about to say you could probably couple that to different octaves.
Exactly. So I can create a reed chorus that sounds more like trumpets by using the sub and super couplers out of that, or out of the crumhorn, or, you know.
Exactly. It's bright, but it's not, again, not overpowering in that division. It's
No, not
pretty
at
gentle.
all. It's very appropriate for that division. It fits very well, I think, in that division. So.
All right, well, that's everything there. So I guess we'll come over to the swell side.
Yeah, so the swell
What do we have
is higher up in the instrument, as you would expect. And so I have a Geigen principle here. Under expression.
And it feels pretty broad for a Geigen principle.
Doesn't it?
That's not exactly what I was expecting, but it's a lovely sound.
Yeah, yeah. So I can also use the viol de gamme to create what sounds more like a principle. So I usually use that.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And then I go up to 4 and 2 and down to 16. And there's a plan jeu, a mixture, and a mixture called acuta. So that's my full principal chorus in the swell.
It feels almost big enough to compete with the great as an echo. I'm not quite as big, but
yes,
yeah,
as an echo, yes.
at least the breadth of the
exactly. So it's very broad, but it also is not as loud,
Yeah.
and so yeah.
Okay.
Flutes in that division, I've got an 8 and a 4. So a different character yet from the great and from the Positiv and from the choir, and just lots
another
of
flute
flute
color.
options, and it's got a 4. I have a string celeste, broader again than what we heard in the choir. The flute celeste. That's with the box open.
Wow.
So So that is the softest sound in the organ.
Yeah, indeed.
Right there.
Okay.
And so I love that I can do all of that. And then as far as reeds, I've got an oboe. I've got trumpets at 16, 8, and 4. So we'll start with 8. Adding 4. And 16.
And there's a lot of power in those reeds.
Yes.
I can see that having those behind expression
Yes.
on top of the rest of the organ must give you a lot of control over the color.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yep. The only thing I haven't talked about is the vox. So the vox was also added in honor of John Obetz during his tenure here. So. And if I add a flute and a trem to it.
Very effective, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, let's while we're still here at the front of the organ, let's talk about the pedal division, because we do have a few amazing pedal stops.
We do,
add
yeah.
to the visual aspect of this instrument.
Exactly.
What have we got out here?
So the towers are the 32s, and so I don't know if your recording equipment
see,
can pick
yeah.
it up, but and low C. So when I'm doing organ demonstrations here and there are kids, they always love running up there and
Going
feeling,
close.
having their hair blow, because you can walk right up to those pipes.
Well, because of the scale, there is a lot of edge to them. So even if the full vibrato is not being picked up, the full vibration, then at least we can hear the edge of that and hear the attack.
Yeah.
It's very present in the room because they're right here, not buried in the back of the organ like
That's
32s
right.
so often
Yes,
are.
exactly. So they're very nice.
So, and then that comes out of the 16-foot, which is, what's that called?
Yep. Principle 16. And then the 8. And the 4. And a mixture.
Great to have that full chorus there, right?
That's
and again,
right.
all right here in front of the organ where it speaks right into the room.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've also got a violon at 16 and 8. Broader in scale and can also with some point though, so it can be a good option. If you don't want the 16 and 8 of the principal, you can have this violon.
Yeah, okay.
I've also got 16 and 8 at flute. And a contrabass. So many options.
A lot of color.
Yeah.
And the thing that strikes me is they're all very clear. Like I can
Yes.
hear the attack of every single stop and every note. Not that they're loud or screamy, they just are clear. They have a
Yeah,
lot
they're
of,
not too tubby.
Yeah.
They're nice and pointed and
Very useful.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly. And then the reeds in the pedal division are amazing. So I have some that are borrowed from the Bombarde division, but if we start with the ones that are resident in the pedal division, there's a ophicleide at 16, and a trumpet, and a clairon. And so if I put all of those together, and then I've got a contraband down at the very bottom. And if I want a bit more gravity, or if I just want to play with the Bombarde reeds down there, so this is all of that combined. So I've got contraband, ophicleide, trumpet 8, clairon, and then Bombarde reeds at 16 and 8.
It's quite a sound.
It is, yes. When I was listening to John Obetz's radio show, it was that struck me. Even though, I mean, it was my little tiny radio, at home. But man, I would hear
Those
that
bright reeds.
sound. Yes, I just loved it.
Well, we still have one more division.
We do.
And it's behind us all the way at the
Back
other
there.
end of the room. Yes, the antiphonal. How many ranks do we have back in the antiphonal division?
There are 13 ranks
13,
back there.
okay.
Yes.
So it's a nondescript. We just have a curtain facade, but there is a very distinct trumpet sticking out back there,
There
too.
is.
We'll get to that. But tell me what we
Okay.
have behind the curtain.
Yeah, the great thing about the antiphonal division is some of it is under expression,
Oh, okay.
and all of it is controlled by a separate console back there.
Oh,
So
really?
we could do duets, or I could put a choir back there and accompany them only on the antiphonal division back in the back. So I love that option.
Does the other console control the front organ as well?
No,
Just the
no,
antiphonal?
it's just a two-manual
Gotcha.
console, only to control the antiphonal. So if we start with the antiphonal grate, I've got a Spitzflöte and a Bourdon, and a principal and a mixture. Principal 4 and a mixture. So here's the Bourdon. Here's the Spitzflöte. So honestly, what I normally do is combine those two to get breadth, and so. Then the principal 4 on the top of that. And a mixture. So it's very complete.
It's a very full chorus coming
it's a
from
nice chorus back there.
And I imagine if you have a room full of people singing, it's nice to be able to have that chorus
It is.
blending them in the back with the front. So.
It is. Yeah, it helps keep people together. When you have 5,000 people singing, it helps to have a little bit of sound coming from back there. I've got a pedal division back there too. It's just got a Bourdon 16 and a principal 8. So if I put that then at the bottom of what I just played. So that's the grate. The Swell, here's the Rohrflöte. Here's a Gemshorn 4. And back there I've got a trumpet. And that's the trumpet in the Swell, so it's not the big trumpet, it's the trumpet in the Swell. If I couple all of that together, I get a pretty wonderful sound from back there in the room.
Yeah, also still very present even all the way up here.
That's right.
In the room with across this huge space.
Yeah, I've also got sub and super couplers for back there, and I've got a tremulant back there. So it's quite a usable division. I was surprised when I got here as to how strong it is and how useful it is.
Yeah,
so
wonderful.
In every program I try to somehow use that. You know, everybody uses the big trumpet, but I want to show that this instrument has all of that flexibility as well.
Well, and I believe it's inspired by St. John the Divine in New York
Yes.
City. We have a trumpet, a state trumpet equivalent here.
Yes.
This is just trumpet on Chamad?
Yes,
correct?
trumpet on Chamad, and
see
so
what it can
here
do.
it is.
It's quite a trumpet. And I should add, for those watching, our microphone levels are set there, and then everything else has to fit underneath it, because it is the loudest thing in the room.
It is very much the loudest thing in the room, and it is. The story is Bethel Knoche visited New York. She was studying with Harold Gleason, and she went to hear the wonderful organ at St. John the Divine, and she heard that trumpet, and she came back here and she said, "We need one of those."
One of those. Well, you almost have it. The room's not quite as big, but
It's
the
not-
trumpet's
yeah,
just about as equivalent.
Exactly.
so.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as high of wind pressure, but it's not as big of a room, and so yeah, it's quite wonderful.
You know, talking about Bethel Knoche and the story of this organ, because there was a lot behind it. I know for a fact that there's actually a book that David Pickering, who is professor at Kansas State
University, which
Yeah.
happens to be one of my alma maters, so
nice.
I'm very proud of that.
He wrote a whole book about this, and there's a link down in the description if you'd like to get your own copy. And it's a fascinating story of all the details that went into this organ. And I know we talked to him some time ago about it, and it was just a matter of digging out files, and there was information nobody had ever bothered to publish or reproduce.
That's exactly right.
So it tells you, you know, what it takes to bring an organ like this to life.
Yeah, it's quite a story. And of course, there were lots of different specifications, many of which I was unaware of. And so it was really neat to dig into those details.
And he even documents all the potential things that didn't happen that could
Yes,
have. So
yeah.
it's a wonderful read if you're interested to learn more about a historic Aeolian-Skinner instrument.
Yes.
Once again, joining me is Michael Quimby, the president of Quimby Organs in Warrensburg, Missouri, which is not too far away from here. You've been taking care of this instrument for a long time.
Since 1982.
So yeah, 40 years of taking care of this and seeing it through, and you've made a few of the additions. Correct?
Well, the instrument was re-leathered starting in '82.
Okay.
It was used very hard in its earlier years, maybe 10 to 12 hours a day.
Oh wow.
By students, and UMKC used it as a teaching instrument.
Okay.
So it was
Got a lot of use.
a lot of use, and the leather quality when it was built was not as good as it is now.
And I assume there's been a few little voicing adjustments over the years
Yes.
to make it a little more modern.
Yes, John Hendrickson, who was the head voicer at Aeolian-Skinner, came back and did work with John Obetz and I, and made some changes to make it a little bit more useful because the organ showed a lot of the Gleason influence. Because at the time it was built, the Swell was approximately 25% softer than it is now.
Oh, really?
Yes. The Great was significantly less powerful, with the big scales, because the Gleasons wanted the Great to be the same power as the Positiv.
Oh, really?
So those issues were done starting with Charles McManus and revoicing the chorus, and then it was carried on after that. In fact, one of the amazing things about this instrument, it's the largest collection of 2/7 mouths principals probably anywhere.
And by 2/7 mouths, tell me what you mean.
Wide.
That's the ratio.
The ratio of the mouth width.
So not very low cut-ups, but wide mouths.
Wide
Gives them a
mouths.
lot of brightness.
Right. In fact, when G. Donald Harrison came here, this organ, as he saw the room, had 5 seconds for reverberation time. And in the intervening years after his death until it was installed, we have the acoustic it is now, which is probably about a second, because the scaling of this organ is almost the same as the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, or what Skinner added in 1953 and 54 there.
Well, this is a big room. It's not that big.
No, not that big. And the Krummhorn is the same as the one there.
And then is the console, this is the original Aeolian-Skinner console.
Yes,
correct?
it is.
Yeah, with a unique sort of modern design to it.
Right.
But I assume everything has been updated in there as well?
Yes.
When was that done?
1987.
And that's still all
electric
functioning
drawn,
on that?
All functioning.
Wonderful.
In fact, the solid state control system here has never had the only glitch is when it was brought online. It was a cracked solder pathway, and since that time, there's not been any problem with it at all.
Well, it's good to hear. Everybody's always curious how long electronic things will last, but here it seems to have done a great job.
Done a great job with a lot of use.
We start our tour of the organ with Mike and Jan both leading us through. We're going to start here with the great Positiv and pedal. We're looking here over the added guard to keep people's hands from getting into the pipes. Apparently people were curious about them, and so these little glass barriers were installed to prevent people from reaching through. Now we're going in under the case here, and we're underneath the grate. And here's the Positiv once again. We can see some of the pedal reeds in the back there. That's the Bombarde division up there. We can get a better look at that when we get up on the great walkboard, which is right here behind us. So now we're on the walkboard. This is the great division here. The chest to the right is actually the top of the pedal course. There's the mixture and the principals there. There's the top of the pedal reeds and the facade. The choir and swell are behind that. There's a close look at the great Borden principal mixtures in front. You can kind of see the Positiv Krummhorn is back there. I believe you can tune it if you are standing on the floor in front of it. And continuing on down the great chest, now we're going to look back here. There's the great trumpet and some more of the pedal pipes. This is hooded because debris from the catwalks overhead kept falling into the pipes, so they hooded the tops of them to keep the dirt out. There's the top of the pedal again. Positiv down there. The other side of the pedal. There's some offset principles here, and then now we're looking back. That's the Bombarde division back there. You get quite a view of the hall from this space. You can see the 32 foots go almost all the way to the ceiling there. Now we're back down on the floor, and the side of the case has a little hidden door here that gives us access to the bottom of the 32-foot pedal. Here we are inside the case, looking up at the full-length 32s. There are resonators down here that have been sealed shut with some added material. Okay, and then going back out, Mike has moved some pipes here so that we can look behind this, and we can see this is where the solid-state organ system is. This was all the new electronics that were added in the 90s, and still working. And then from there's a door that takes us into a hallway out in sort of the public areas of the dome. And the first thing we come to is the blower room, with its myriad wind lines. There are two different regulated pressures here, one for the most of the organ and one for the Bombarde, which is on a higher pressure. So we have two static regulators in this room. And then right next to it is a door that takes us into the choir division. This is a very cozy little division. Much of the pipework has had to be creatively mitered in order to fit into this space. There's the chrome horn and mixture right in front. 4-foot flute and the strings. There's the heavily mitered strings here along the back. We have to squeeze under the regulator to get to the other side, but here we are now. We have the reeds over here, and then the chest for the horizontal pipes is along the back wall. The rack boards for this rink were all remade by Michael Quimby because the original mounting setup by Aeolian-Skinner was deemed inadequate. One more look here. We're back on the other side, and the swell is above us, so we're going there next. Looking underneath the chest, we can see that the floor is multi-leveled, meaning this must have been really an interesting challenge to design this organ to fit in the space. So, out the hall, we go upstairs, and we open what is essentially a storage area. And up some more stairs. And from here, we actually get out to the catwalk. So we're going to go out and take a look for a really interesting view of the organ. And from here, we can see that the 32-foot pipe still, even from where we're standing, goes up a good deal more, almost all the way to the ceiling. So back into the storage room. And here's a door that leads us into the swell division. It's also a tight space, but there's certainly more room than the choir division in here. So going down to the walkboard. It's easy enough to walk through here. You see our expression motors. You don't have to duck under anything in this division. There are some 16-foot pipes in here, which only fit thanks to some very creative mitering. And there's the added Vox Humana. I am told that that chest it is sitting on is an Aeolian-Skinner chest. The bottom of the 16-foot reed is mitered against the wall. And we can see how these pipes have had added supports to help hold up those massive turns in the pipes. In another room, we have the mufflers. These are actual motorcycle mufflers that are used to silence the wind going to the antiphonal trumpet because it's on such high pressure. Those extra blowers, turns out, made a lot of noise. We have two blowers there stepping up the pressure of the main antiphonal blower, going through a series of mufflers to silence it. And here's the electronics for the antiphonal. The old wiring here where it goes into the new SSL system. Here's a view of the hall as we were on our way around to the antiphonal division. This is a big space, and I don't want to drone on about it too much, but Jan and Mike actually couldn't remember how to get to the antiphonal division, so it involved a phone call to a technician that had more reason to know where it was.
It's floor 6. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I wasn't sure how to get there. Okay, so how do I get to those stairs? Familiar?
Now it's coming back.
Okay, it's all coming back to you now. Oh, yep. So he warned me about this step down. He said he has tripped on this step many times. So keep going.
It's quite the maze of offices in this
And then
building.
they gave us a very...
Yeah, should be. No?
Nope, it's gone around.
Okay, not around.
It's a little door off to the side. Okay, where Nope. That's...
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Now.
Little tiny door.
Yep, that's it.
That's it.
So once finally there, the next challenge was finding the right key out of many possible ones that would open the door. Another phone call, and we almost gave up, but turns out the lock was sticky. So now we are in the antiphonal swell. Very cozy little division. We step right in, and we already have some offset pipes. And there is the swell chest. And then an opening down at the floor level. Lets us go through the shades, and we are now in the antiphonal grate. Lift up a little bit of a ladder, we find a very cramped space here. The smallest pipes close to us, and you can see the curtained facade there behind the pipes in the front. And then against the wall we have the pedal Borden, which has apparently had its cut-up lowered by the addition of these pieces of metal to lower the upper lip. And our parting shot is from a view that not many people get in this wonderful big space.
And then we should also mention that Bethel Knoche was the first principal organist of the Community of Christ, then known as the RLDS Church. And it was under her direction that this organ was installed.
So you're only the third organist
I'm only
to be
the
chief
third organist, that's right.
But there are also a lot of other volunteers I know that come help.
Yes, yes. So
around
at
these.
its height, I had about 35 volunteer, we called them staff organists, and they provided the music for all of the many musical functions that went on here. Over time, those functions have decreased, unfortunately, because of financial concerns, but then also the pandemic, of course. So now we're going to rebuild. So
That's great to have so much help and so many interested volunteers. to
Yeah,
help
and
out.
I myself was a staff organist for 5 years before I became principal organist. And one of the things that I'm grateful for is the daily organ recitals, free demonstration recitals that were given every day in the summer. I learned so much about programming and about how to speak to an audience from those audiences, just audiences of tourists that would come, some who knew something about the organ, some who had never heard the organ before. But my goodness, what a great training ground for a young organist like myself and so many others. I'm really grateful for that.
So are we doing those daily recitals still? Have they come back yet?
They have not come back from
Okay.
the pandemic yet. So what you can do is you can go to the Community of Christ website and you can request a tour with an organ demonstration.
Okay.
So it's kind of an on-demand thing, and there is some cost associated with that. But I hope that eventually we'll get back to at least weekly demonstration recitals, and then I hope daily demonstration recitals.
Well, and we'll put a link in the description of this video to the website so you can keep an eye out for when those recitals will attend, because they were a great event to come here. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour of the 1959 Aeolian-Skinner organ here at the Community of Christ Auditorium in Independence, Missouri. You can come and hear this instrument and get a tour. As Jan said, we'll have some information. There's a link down in the description to their website. But until then, Jan, thank you so much for this wonderful demonstration. This is an amazing organ. It must be a lot of fun to sit and try to put everything together. You've got so many beautiful options.
I do, and thank you so much for your interest. Thank you for your interest as well.
I know this organ generates a lot of interest in this community too. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs, and thanks for all you do for them, Jan. I know you're a vital part of that program and keeping it going. My thanks to Mike Quimby and the Quimby Organ Company also for helping us out today. This has been a great start to the year. We'll have more videos coming out, so make sure you're subscribed to our channel and give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Until our next video, you can always find streaming classical organ music on our 3 stations, organlive.com, Positively Baroque, and The Organ Experience. Thank you again, Jan. It's been wonderful to see you. Hopefully we'll be back to Independence and visit some more organs before long.
I hope so.
Until then, I'm Brent Johnson. Thanks for watching.